Common sense, something that at least in recent times doesn't seem to be all that common anymore. And when you combine that with the anonymity granted by the internet, well, let's just say the results aren't so pretty. Now, there are hundreds of sites where people can do just about everything, from plain stupid to borderline illegal. In fact, you're on one right now. But for this video's sake, let's dive into the whirlpool of communities also known as Reddit. Hello everyone, this is the RPG Monger, and today we're going internet dumpster diving. The series where I dig up a ton of awful garbage for your viewing pleasure. And let me preface that for the most part, Reddit is probably one of my favorite sites out there in terms of community interaction and all of that kind of stuff. Most of the situations we'll be discussing today are more hidden away in the dark corners of the site. So before we tackle the huge cesspool of banned subreddits, I feel a brief history lesson is needed. Founded in 2005, Reddit had always taken a more lenient approach to policing its subreddits, whether they be moderated or member-founded. Due to this, communities of all shapes and sizes found their home on Reddit, some being what you'd expect, and others being a bit risky. I mean, in some ways, that's what kind of makes Reddit so popular, with the existence of subreddits like r/5050, where you may end up seeing a cute animal, or a man shoving a mason jar up his ass, which remains today as one of the most completely and utterly cursed things I've seen on the internet thus far. Though I'm getting a bit sidetracked, nightmares aside, in the beginning, Reddit was actually opposed to the addition of more spicy things to the site, believe it or not. Well, in comes r/jailbait, a subreddit that, get this, was completely centered around provocative shots of teenagers. Of course, Reddit was initially completely opposed to the creation and existence of the subreddit because, I mean, do I even need to explain why? However, there was one deciding factor that not only led to these communities' continued existence, but even massive success in some cases, and that's moderators like Violina Krez, or VA for short. You see, what VA would do is basically keep everything right at the edge of illegal, with any content of that sort being immediately removed by him. Due to this, r/jailbait became incredibly popular, and at one point had become the second most popular search term for the site. Hell, in 2008, r/jailbait was crowned subreddit of the year. At the time, the subreddit's existence was even defended by the general manager of Reddit, saying that such controversial pages were the consequence of allowing free speech on the site. Well, as time passed, things wouldn't remain the same, since with the abhorrent nature of the content found on the popular subreddit, it all began to attract some pretty big media attention when Anderson Cooper of CNN created an entire segment of his show solely to condemn the subreddit and criticize Reddit for hosting it. What made matters worse for the community is at this exact time when just about everyone had r/jailbait under the magnifying glass, a user not only posted an image of an underage girl claiming to have nude photos of her, but then tons of other users requested the original poster to send them her nudes via the DMs. This, along with many other obvious issues with the subreddit, led to r/jailbait being one of the first major bans from the site as a whole back in 2011, plus with r/jailbait being completely wiped from the site, so were many similar subreddits soon after, like r/teengirls, r/ and r/pics of dead jailbait. But that isn't the end of VA's saga, since 1 year after the whole mess with r/jailbait, another subreddit called r/creepshots began to draw controversy with the media for hosting sexualized pictures of women without their knowledge or consent. And with all this sudden attention r/creepshots was getting, soon VA was added to their team of moderators. From here on though, things only kept escalating more and more as as Gawker reporter Adrian Chen was putting together an expose that would effectively reveal the real-life identity of VA. As a result, in a desperate plea for the article not to be published, VA completely deleted his account along with any and all of his posts. Remember, at the time, VA had moderated a few hundred general interest communities, along with a few dozen controversial ones. Afterwards, though, the piece still ended up being published, leading to many controversial subreddits being gravely injured. And back to creepshots though, since in actuality, Reddit didn't even ban this one, because after the subreddit had actually gotten a teacher fired since a photo someone took of her without her consent had found its way onto the community, an anonymous group of users effectively blackmailed the creator of the subreddit to either private the entire community or have their real-life identity exposed online. To quote one of the users within the group, "Clean up your mess, change your behavior, and move on with your life." So as you may have expected, not only was the subreddit privated, but the creator left the site completely. You know, honestly, I don't know what these people were expecting creating communities around such disgusting stuff. Like you'll see in some other banned subreddits, these people had zero common sense when making these communities. Take r/beating-women. Yeah, that was a thing, where you guessed it, the community featured pretty graphic depictions of violence against women. Weirdly enough though, this subreddit wasn't even banned for featuring such appalling stuff. Actually, it was banned after moderators were discovered to be sharing a ton of users' personal information online, collaborating with one another to protect themselves from site-wide bans. Afterwards, the community's founder rebooted the subreddit under the oh-so-creative name r/beating-women2 in an attempt to circumvent the ban. You wanna know what happened to it? Well, let's find out. Yeah, I mean really, what did you expect? Moving on from that though, in comes a subreddit I don't even think I need to explain why it was banned. Nearly 4 years ago now, the Fappening happened, where on r/thefappening, all the naked pictures leaked from celebrities' iCloud accounts were spread across the internet, with some images even falling under child pornography. Thankfully though, the subreddit was shut down relatively quickly by Reddit's administrators, but by that point, the damage had long been done. And with that damage, Reddit's moderation had to become more serious. Plus, recently, in a very similar situation, we had r/deepfakes, a subreddit that was only banned 3 months ago in actuality. To give you a brief rundown, there was an app that would basically superimpose the faces of famous actresses onto pornographic actors, of course without their consent. While once again, it took a bit of time for the subreddit to be banned, once videos from the subreddit were banned on other platforms, Reddit decided it was high time to swing the ban hammer. However now, moving on from all the disgusting communities surrounding compromising photos, we have subreddits like r/fatpeoplehate, which had over 150,000 subscribers at the time. It, along with 4 other subreddits, were all deleted under Reddit's anti-harassment policy. With these communities, as you'd expect, members were basically using the subreddit as a platform to harass others uninhibited, since the actual moderators of the subreddit did nothing to stop it. Oh, and who could forget the infamous Chimpire, a collection of subreddits and affiliated websites that not only promoted anti-black racism, but was filled with racial slurs as far as the eye can see. While not all of these communities were full-on banned, the grand majority have been quarantined, letting us see how disgusting these subreddits were in their prime. Hell, one of the more prolific subreddits under the group of communities ever so eloquently named r/ had engaged in vote manipulation, incitements of violence, and use of racist content to disrupt other communities before they were banned. Plus, it's not like these bans happened out of nowhere. As stated by the general manager of Reddit, the subreddit had received a fair amount of warnings before they were banned. Though now, it's time to tackle a subreddit host to a group of individuals I'm sure you all know about by now: incels. For context, incels, or involuntary celibates, are as described by the now banned subreddit as, and I quote, someone who has unintentionally gone 6 months without a romantic or sexual encounter, is at least 21 years old, and is of any gender. Now, if the forum was solely used for the members to discuss their lack of romantic success, that'd be all fine and dandy. A bit odd, but harmless all the same. Well, for the most part, as much as I try not to use this word, things were much more toxic than you'd ever imagine. Just a glance at the now deleted subreddit would show you that the majority of the self-proclaimed incels of the subreddit were extremely misogynistic, with many discussions downplaying, condoning, or even advocating rape, all the while referring to women as femoids or sluts. Just to give you all a taste of what this subreddit contained, there would be popular posts titled "Reasons Why Women Are the Embodiment of Evil" and "Proof That Girls Are Nothing But Trash That Use Men." Like, I don't want to be that guy, but how in the hell do any of these people expect to have a relationship with that way of thinking? Any users on the subreddit that were either deemed too female-friendly or claimed that women experienced the same inceldom as men do were just flat-out banned. There would even be users on the subreddit who admired the murderer Elliot Rodger solely because he was an incel. And if you somehow think this community had any redeeming qualities, take this post, which I highly recommend you pause the video to absorb due to how disturbing it is. Because honestly, this basically represents how actually horrifying some of these people were. Though probably the scariest thing is, before it got banned last year, the subreddit had just about 40,000 subscribers. Just take that in for a second. 40,000 people that subscribe to this way of thinking. Like, I've seen some outright awful, just despicable communities out there, but this has to be one of the worst. And I'm sure that by now you're thinking, just how could anything be worse than a community like that? Well, while r/incels had the potential to go on an FBI watch list, if it didn't already, these next 3 subreddits were just outright illegal. Take r/guns for sale, a subreddit that just from its title alone is pretty telling why it got banned. Or how about r/darknet markets, a forum for discussing users' activities on the darknet, even featuring participation from the owners of the online marketplaces. Well, considering that this was the case, US authorities quickly caught wind of this and began to request personal information behind a ton of accounts. Though then, with those two aside, we have the most damning of them all. A subreddit that honestly, I can't even believe only just got banned 2 months ago. r/shoplifting. A subreddit completely centered around stories, tips, and questions about shoplifting large commercial retail chains. And while they would dissuade from shoplifting smaller stores since they wouldn't be able to absorb the loss, the community was also filled to the brim with pictures showing the things that users had stolen. Before it was banned, believe it or not, the subreddit had over 77,000 people subscribed. I just cannot wrap my head around how that community didn't get banned sooner. And well, here we are now. I will say that there were others I couldn't fit into this video, but at least in terms of one of them, you may see me talking about it in the near future. Thankfully though, all of these subreddits are now history, and as more and more of these communities who have absolutely no place on the site are banned, I feel Reddit will be one step closer to having an all-around positive experience for everyone on it. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, do subscribe, and today's cool thing of the day is, well, Reddit. Because while hearing about all these banned subreddits may make you think the site is a terrible place to be on, I found Reddit to be probably one of the best places for community interaction, especially of the fandom variety. Like, honestly, coming from someone who isn't even that active in fandoms anymore, the specific subreddits for certain fandoms, like, say, Final Fantasy, are probably one of the most peaceful and fun to be in out of all the sites out there. So hey, if you're in need of a good place for community interaction, try Reddit. So that being said, I'm the RPG Monger, and don't forget that each and every one of you are fantastic.